and it had all gone wrong so fast. 12 seconds ago, she'd been standing on the central dais next to her boss, Johnny Marchmont, extremely earnest fiancé of Princess Rose of Albany, the king's least favourite granddaughter. She'd handed him the speech notes he'd absent-mindedly left on the dessert table, and he'd cast her a grateful glance and tripped over the microphone cord. His flailing left arm had sort of scooped her right across the back. He'd heaved her into the crowd like he was throwing a tennis ball for Rosie's pit bull. If she delved back into her memories of school physics, there was probably a handy series of equations that would explain the height and velocity she'd reached in 0.5 of a second. Unfortunately, Pet was pretty sure she'd left her brain back on the stage, because her mind was just an echo chamber of 4-letter words right now. Although, for some unholy reason, she'd retained enough muscle function to starfish her arms and legs as she flew, like a bat. Luckily for her, and extremely unfortunately for him, Matthias had been doing his laser eye sweep of the crowd directly beneath the stage. He'd managed to break her fall, with his skull, but still. He must have moved like lightning, but he was used to reacting quickly, especially in this security detail. As much as she liked her incredibly well-meaning boss, she hoped Matthias and the rest of the bodyguards were getting hazard pay. Just this morning, Johnny had attempted to pick a bunch of flowers for Rosie from the palace gardens and set fire to a wheelbarrow. After kissing him on the cheek, his fiancée had calmly filled an antique chalice with pond water, extinguished the flames, and continued speaking into her work phone. The royal couple in a nutshell. Still dazed, Pet twisted her head sideways and looked up at the stage. Johnny's cheeks were crimson, and he appeared to be frozen to the spot. The ludicrous dismay in his expression snapped her brain back into its correct location, and it finally sank in exactly how far away she was from the ground. If Matthias dropped her at this point, she'd crack like an egg. "Hi," she squeaked brilliantly, and her breath rushed out as he moved his big hands again, lifted her a few inches, and did some sort of flipping maneuver. She landed squarely in his arms, her hands instinctively fisting in his crisp black shirt. Blinking, she met his inscrutable gaze. "Hi," he said, deadpan, in that deep, level voice. As usual, his harsh, uneven features were set in imperturbable lines, and people had been giving him slightly wary glances all night. Admittedly, his body language did emit a general aura of "fuck with me at your peril," but when they'd first met, in fairly traumatic circumstances, he'd been kind to her in his gruff, monosyllabic way. She'd been looking forward to already having a friend on the palace staff when she started work. Overly optimistically, as it turned out. In the 10 days since she'd officially joined the team as Johnny's personal assistant and troubleshooter, this was their longest one-to-one encounter. She might as well add part-time magician to her resume, because, hey presto, she could make a fully grown big bear of a man disappear with a single good morning. Renewed self-consciousness washed over her as he set her carefully back on her feet. As a young child, she'd been quite shy, a perfectly valid personality trait she'd nevertheless thought she'd outgrown until this past week. He scanned her for visible signs of injury, closely and thoroughly, but with his usual professional detachment. "Are you hurt?" he asked, and there was a fractional edge to the words. To be fair, she'd probably put his neck out. He was very subtly rolling one shoulder, and she detected a lightning flicker that might have been a suppressed wince. Pet smoothed down her dress, very aware of the many faces and cameras pointed their way. "I'm fine, thanks to you," she said, flushing, and he made a short, dismissive gesture with his bearded chin. She cleared her throat. "Just not exactly how I'd pictured my first big function on the job."